Man, I hope everybody's having a great holiday week. It looks like Caitlin Clark has broken the internet yet again.
$85. Sold out at Target within hours. Pre-orders crashing Panini's website. Dan Patrick opening the box live on television and instinctively stopping himself mid-rip.
They do things different better than anybody. Maybe if somebody wants to open theirs up and then I can look and see what it looks like.
Don't open it. Keep it sealed. This is going to be worth something. That single moment tells you almost everything you need to know about where the WNBA sits right now and who is driving its relevance. This is what happens when Caitlin Clark's name goes on a product during the offseason, months after she last played a game, while the league itself is embroiled in potential labor unrest. The timing matters. The WNBA is staring down a possible strike. Players are threatening to sit out the 2025 season as collective bargaining negotiations intensify.
Even though
No, it's meant to be open.
Open and looked at.
No, it's meant to be open, looked at. But I'm going to keep mine wrapped.
I'm going to keep mine wrapped too, because I'm getting a pie in the face.
Right.
Yet, the story breaking through to mainstream sports media isn't about revenue sharing, travel conditions, or union demands. It's about a trading card collection centered entirely on one player generating more attention than entire team rosters combined. Panini didn't treat this like a standard rookie release. The collection includes 32 total cards, with 4 cards per pack and 8 packs per box. 50 cards feature Clark in her Indiana Fever uniform alone. There are lifestyle cards showing her off the court, autograph variants, ultra-rare color blast inserts, and even her Time magazine cover.
Top 25, Caitlin Clark, 100 card set, including 50 Caitlin Clark WNBA and 10 Caitlin Clark lifestyles, featuring 4 cards per pack, 8 packs per unit.
The one that crowned her the face of women's basketball before she had played a single professional game.
They definitely on their job getting Caitlin Clark pretty much back in the headlines, bruh. So this is it here, y'all. This is it. This is the cover here.
This isn't Panini hedging. This is Panini packaging a second-year WNBA player the same way they package LeBron James or Steph Curry.
32 trading cards, autographs. My thing is, how many of these will be available? Like, is it a limited supply of these?
Premium presentation, limited availability, a price point designed to signal long-term value, and the market responded exactly as expected.
So shout out to Dan Patrick for giving us a breakdown of this Caitlin Clark collection that has been released by Panini. So this is what is in the inside of there. It says pre-order Panini Caitlin Clark Chronicle.
The $85 price didn't deter buyers. Scarcity created urgency. Sports collectors who have never watched a WNBA game are scrambling for sealed boxes because they recognize investment value when they see it. That's not hype. That's market behavior. And dopes of the league have been dancing around this reality for months, but Sophie Cunningham said it out loud.
And it literally pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
She didn't hedge. She didn't soften it. She's not the face of the league. Who would be? Sabrina? No.
We have a lot of badasses in our league.
Yeah.
Hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Then she went further, saying anyone who thinks the WNBA would be where it is today without Caitlin Clark is dumb as shit. Those were her words. From a player who competed against Clark. From someone who lost to the Fever in the playoffs. From someone who has every incentive to downplay Clark's impact. And yet she didn't, because what she was describing isn't history, it's the present. That's where this conversation keeps getting derailed. On one side are fans pointing to measurable data. Television ratings, attendance figures, merchandise sales, social media engagement. Every metric tied to fan interest shows a sharp spike connected directly to Caitlin Clark. The Fever averaged approximately 1.2 million viewers per nationally televised game. The next closest team, the Las Vegas Aces, averaged around 620,000. That's not a marginal gap, that's nearly double. On the other side of this conversation are longtime WNBA supporters who feel that the Caitlin Clark hype risks erasing decades of work done by players like Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Sue Bird, and many others who carried the league when visibility was scarce and resources were thin. These are fans who remember half-empty arenas, limited television coverage, and seasons that came and went with barely a mention in mainstream sports media. Their frustration isn't imagined, and it isn't rooted in jealousy. It's rooted in memory. History matters. Foundations matter. The league does not exist without the players who built it when there was little financial incentive or public reward for doing so. But Sophie Cunningham wasn't talking about history. She was talking about December, about right now, about what is happening in the present tense, not what should be honored in retrospect. And that distinction is critical because the Panini release makes the current reality impossible to deny. This isn't a debate driven by opinion or narrative preference. It's a market response unfolding in real time, detached from nostalgia and rooted entirely in demand. What makes the timing of this release even more revealing is Clark's near total absence from the public spotlight. She hasn't been doing promotional tours. She hasn't been making courtside appearances at Iowa games. She hasn't been feeding the media cycle with interviews or social media theatrics. According to multiple creators and reporters covering the league closely, she's likely back in Indianapolis, training quietly, staying out of headlines while the collective bargaining negotiations play out. That silence isn't accidental. Clark holds more leverage than any player in the WNBA, and possibly more than any player ever has at this stage of a league's growth. If she publicly supported a strike, it would place immediate pressure on ownership and fundamentally alter the negotiation dynamic. If she publicly opposed one, it would undercut the union's position and fracture internal solidarity. Either move would dominate the news cycle, either move would reshape the power balance overnight. The fact that she's doing neither suggests intention, not indifference. Staying silent is almost certainly strategic and almost certainly guided by experienced representation that understands just how much influence she carries. Panini, however, has no stake in labor politics. They aren't concerned with union optics or negotiation leverage. They care about demand, scarcity, and long-term value. And what they just demonstrated is that Caitlin Clark can move product in December during the deadest stretch of the WNBA calendar while actively avoiding the spotlight. That's not standard star power, that's cultural gravity. That's a player whose relevance extends beyond game nights and into the broader sports economy. None of this is new territory for Clark. Every stage of her career has followed the same pattern. Someone with credentials steps forward to question an aspect of her game. Doug Gottlieb criticizes her shooting form. College analysts argue her release point is too low. Others insist she won't hold up against WNBA physicality, won't be able to run an offense against professional defenses, won't generate the same numbers once the game speeds up and space disappears. Every one of those predictions collapsed under actual results. She finished second in MVP voting as a rookie. She broke the single-season assist record. She took a Fever team that went 13-27 the year before and turned it into a playoff team almost overnight. She shot 34% from beyond the arc on high volume while forcing defenses to extend to the logo. The criticisms didn't just miss. They failed completely. So when Panini places her shooting form front and center on a premium trading card, 2 fingers down, balanced follow-through, confidence frozen in time, they aren't worried about technical debates. They're betting on outcomes. They're betting on what happens when the ball leaves her hands, not on theoretical flaws that haven't shown up on the scoreboard. And so far, betting on results has been undefeated. That's what this collection actually represents. It's Panini making a long-term investment in Caitlin Clark's trajectory. It's a statement that her marketability is expected to grow, not fade. That 5 years from now, a sealed Chronicle box will be worth more than $85 because her legacy will be larger, her influence broader, and her place in basketball history more secure. And that's the most uncomfortable part of this entire discussion. That is a bet Panini is not making on other WNBA stars. Not because those players lack talent, accolades, or championships, but because market value and cultural impact are not distributed evenly. Pretending otherwise doesn't change reality, it just delays the reckoning with it. Aja Wilson is arguably the best player in the WNBA. Back-to-back MVPs, multiple championships, a two-way force who dictates games on both ends of the floor and has done so consistently at the highest level. Breanna Stewart owns one of the most decorated resumes in modern women's basketball. Titles, finals MVPs, record contracts, and a reputation as a franchise anchor wherever she goes. Sabrina Ionescu has the New York market, Nike backing, cultural visibility, and crossover moments like the three-point contest against Steph Curry that briefly pushed the WNBA into the center of the sports conversation. And yet, none of them are getting premium Caitlin Clark-style trading card collections that sell out nationwide in a matter of hours. None of them are being packaged as speculative assets. None of them are being treated as long-term collectibles whose value is expected to rise independent of championships or accolades. That decision wasn't personal, it wasn't disrespectful, it wasn't emotional, it was data-driven. Panini didn't make a judgment about basketball skill. They made a judgment about demand, about who moves product, who attracts new buyers, and who pulls people into a space they weren't previously paying attention to. That's the uncomfortable truth behind every major business decision in sports. Greatness and market pull are related, but they are not the same thing. The same reality shows up in content creation. The creator discussing this Panini release admitted frustration about not hitting 100,000 subscribers, but he also made an important distinction. He doesn't buy views. He doesn't game the algorithm. His growth is organic, driven entirely by audience behavior. And the reason his channel grew at all this year is because Caitlin Clark gave him something casual fans actually cared about. She provided a bridge between diehard women's basketball followers and a much larger audience that previously had no reason to engage. Algorithms don't reward loyalty. They don't reward fairness. They reward behavior. What gets clicked, what gets watched through to the end, what gets commented on and shared. Caitlin Clark content performs because people choose it. Content centered on other players generally does not reach the same level of engagement. That isn't a media conspiracy. It isn't bias. It's collective audience choice expressed through data. And that creates a very real tension for the league. On one hand, you want to maximize the star power that is driving unprecedented attention, revenue growth, and mainstream relevance. On the other hand, you don't want the league's entire identity to revolve around a single player, especially in a league that is roughly 70% black and built by generations of athletes who never received this level of exposure or commercial opportunity. That tension is legitimate and it deserves to be addressed honestly. But pretending Caitlin Clark isn't the primary engine of the league's current visibility doesn't elevate anyone else. It doesn't redistribute attention. It doesn't correct historical imbalance. It simply makes the conversation dishonest. And dishonest conversations don't produce sustainable solutions. They produce resentment, denial, and missed opportunity. The question then isn't whether Caitlin Clark is the face of the league. The Panini collection answers that definitively. The sellouts answer it. The collector behavior answers it. The question is what the WNBA does with that reality. Do they build a structure that uses her visibility to elevate other stars instead of competing with it? Do they create rivalries, narratives, and marketing strategies that give fans a reason to care about games she isn't playing in? Do they acknowledge that market value is unequal while still designing compensation systems that treat players fairly and sustainably? Because Caitlin Clark won't play forever. Maybe she has 10 years, maybe 15, maybe less. And if the league doesn't use this moment to build a broader, stickier fan base, one that remains engaged when she's injured, resting, or eventually retired, then the momentum evaporates the moment she leaves the stage. Ratings fall, attendance dips, merchandise sales contract, and the next generation of players inherits a league that had its moment and failed to convert it into permanence. That's what's actually at stake. The CBA negotiations matter. Players are asking for higher salaries, better travel conditions, maternity protections, and a larger share of revenue. Those are legitimate demands, and many of them are overdue. But the revenue fueling those negotiations is growing in large part because one player fundamentally changed the audience equation. Ignoring that fact doesn't strengthen the player's position. It weakens the league's ability to plan realistically. Expansion matters too. New teams in San Francisco and Toronto will draft from existing rosters and attempt to establish local fan bases quickly. The critical question is whether fans in those cities will show up without Clark on the schedule. Will they buy jerseys for players they don't yet know? Or does the league need to ensure that its biggest draws are strategically showcased to help new markets take root? Media rights matter as well. The current television deal expires after the 2025 season, and networks are negotiating based on projections of continued growth. Those projections depend on more than one superstar. If the league can't demonstrate durable engagement beyond Clark, those numbers become far less certain. So when an $85 trading card box sells out instantly, it isn't just a moment of memorabilia hype. It's a signal, a data point, a snapshot of where the league stands right now, and a reminder that how the WNBA responds to this moment will determine whether this era becomes a foundation or a footnote. Caitlin Clark is the face of the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham is right. The market proves it. The question isn't whether that's true. The question is whether the league can turn that truth into something durable. 5 years from now, that Panini box will probably be worth more. Whether the WNBA as a whole is worth more depends entirely on the decisions being made right now, during these negotiations, these expansions, and these media deals. And those decisions have to start with honesty about what's actually driving this moment.